Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Little Acts of Kindness. This will be Part 91, Chapter 91, entitled Pyro Tendencies. Meizo moved through the streets, keeping away from one of the heroes that was futilely trying to patrol. It was Wednesday morning, the last full day of the exam, though it didn't officially end until tomorrow morning. Amongst the remaining members of the heroes were Bakugo, Todoroki, Hananuki, Komori, Asui, Shota, and Tokiyami. 8 heroes left, though they had lost a few members of their team as well. But just because they had the numbers didn't mean they could let their guard down. The remaining members of the hero team were powerhouses. After a little while, he arrived at the bank and scouted out the outside and insides, acting like a normal civilian to fool the robots. After he got the information, he reported it to Rin. As he headed back to the base, he reflected on their losses. First, they had lost Shishida, who would have been a heavy hitter on the attack squad, but given how many heroes they took down, the loss was acceptable. Then they lost Aoyama, who had been looking forward to being chaotic with Ashido, but the girl was more than making up for his loss. Unfortunately, Sato, Tsuburaba, and Kaminari were all taken out by Uraraka and Tokage, but those 2 heroes were also taken out at least. And then Kaibara had also sacrificed himself so Kirishima could get away last night. Kirishima was currently resting, but Meizo knew the boy would be getting up soon, having asked their leader if he could interrupt the concert, which their leader approved of. Though that would only be if the heroes got the power restored. It didn't matter, though, that the heroes had regained control of the power station. They had accomplished their goal, and no longer needed it. They had accomplished most of their goals as well, though there were still a few things they needed to do in order to get as many points as possible, such as robbing the bank, which was why he had scouted it out. The information would be useful for later. Meizo had to admit he was proud of Midoriya for how he was handling being the villain leader. To see his classmate giving his all to lead them to victory, even if it was clear he found acting villainous awkward. The way he would return to being shy in the moments when he didn't need to act. It was reassuring to see it as well, that Midoriya wasn't going too far into acting like the villain, even when he didn't need to. Still, Midoriya's goal was admirable, and something Meizo wanted to see happen as well. He wanted to see the world becoming a better place, where people like him didn't scare others just because of his appearance. He was going to be a hero and prove that those with mutation quirks could be heroes as well. Midoriya was showing how his plans worked, even accounting for the actions the heroes were likely to take, so they came away on top of each situation. Meizo believed in Midoriya before this, but now he could see more of his classmates and students of 1B gaining more respect for Izuku. Especially Kamakiri. The boy with the blade quirk had been very antagonistic in the beginning, but he could now see admiration, the respect. Still, Meizo didn't think Midoriya himself was realizing the effect he was having on his peers, that Midoriya really was starting an entire movement that would last past this exercise, that they would be looking to him for how to be able to change their society for a better one, even if Midoriya didn't want the spotlight. One person couldn't change society on their own, but with people backing them up, then change could happen. Meizo arrived back at the hideout and went to rest up. Tonight was when their plans kicked up again, after the rest of the morning crew set up things to make the heroes paranoid. Nirengeki checked in on the comms, which were now back up and functioning as he and Komori managed to get the power station back up and running. Luckily, it didn't seem too complicated. Likely the teachers had made it simpler for them to be able to use. Mines checking in on the hero team. Check in, please. Lord Explosion. The explosive boy Midoriya had outed as having suicide baited him started to speak. Knock it off, Bakugo. The son of the number 2 hero interrupted. Don't interrupt me, half and half. Nirengeki gave a sigh. That was Bakugo and Todoroki accounted for. Edict. Rocketti? He tried but got no response, and he dreaded that what Kirishima had told them was true, that their leader was dead. Komori had told him the building had been destroyed, but he had been half hoping the 2 had managed to escape as Komori and Hananuki had. I'm here! Real steel checking in. Tetsu soon spoke as Bakugo and Todoroki had stopped arguing. The darkness has not fully claimed me, Tokiyami said. Frobby here, Kero. The girl who insisted on being called Sue said. It sounded like she was in a bit of pain. "Is everything all right, Fabi?" Komori asked. "I'm injured, Kero, and the base is totaled. Some of the civilians have been kind enough to let me rest in their home, but it's making them anxious. What with the villains targeting us," Sue answered. "Where are you? One of us can come help you," he offered. Soon he got a location and realized that he and Komori were the closest. "Is that everyone?" Todoroki asked. "Mudman here. Sorry for the delay. Was fighting against Kodai and Bondo. She's now been taken care of, but Bondo got away," Hananuki reported. 8 people have checked in. Nirengeki started to walk with Komori to get to Sue's location. "What about villains? What do we know about their numbers?" Todoroki questioned. "The nerd's still alive," Bakugo said. "Thank you, Captain Obvious," Todoroki retorted. "Let us not fight amongst ourselves. We need to regroup and stand together in order to have a chance against the predators who are picking us off," Tokiyami said. Soon the consensus was reached that not many of the villains had been wiped out, maybe 5 to 10 of them, though the numbers were a bit unknown. By the end of the conversation, they had arrived at where Sue had said she was. But the door to the house was ajar, and entering it, they found robots killed, taped to a wall, or stuck to the floor by purple sticky balls, and a painted green smiley face. Sue was gone, and there was no sign of the villains nearby. "This way, the plants are disturbed," Komori said, gesturing to the backyard, and the two took off, following after the faint clues, and eventually they arrived in a warehouse, where Sue was tied up, bound to a chair, with Sero and Mineta guarding her. The 2 heroes scouted the place, and soon the 2 were dropping down on the villains for a surprise attack, managing to subdue them. "Oi, the Hero Commission just came onto the news, said that we could take any means necessary in order to prevent the villains from doing more damage," Bakugo said. Nirengeki grimaced. "We have Sero and Mineta secured, but we don't have a prison to put them into." "In this situation, should we not eliminate them?" Todoroki proposed. "It's clear that by putting them away, they could just break out again." "But doing that would make us no better than them," Komori protested. "We don't have the manpower to watch them," Bakugo bit out. Nirengeki grimaced. Both sides were right. They didn't have a place to lock the 2 up without worrying about them being freed. Nor did they have the manpower to have someone keep watch. But eliminating them for the exercise, in essence, killing the villain, was the wrong thing for a hero to do. "Look, if you extras won't do it, bring them here and I'll do it. It's just a school exercise," Bakugo said, the scowl clear to hear. Nirengeki exchanged a look with Komori, who didn't look too happy with the idea, but after a quiet discussion between the 2, it was decided what they would do. It didn't make them feel any better about the decision, though. "So, did anyone else know Kirishima was a bit of a pyromaniac?" Namuri questioned. "He's just playing his role as villain, isn't he?" Yagi questioned in return. Shota shook his head. "No, he's enjoying destroying buildings, going out and doing so even when there's no need to. Take now, for instance. They've already accomplished arson. The only major goal they have left is to rob a bank and take down the sewer system. So him going out and just destroying random buildings is just causing a distraction. But we can't find the villains on any of the other screens." "You're missing something," Hizashi commented lightly. The others turned to him in surprise. Hizashi came over to the controls, glancing at the principal. "May I?" Nezu nodded, chuckling merrily as he sipped away at his tea. Hizashi changed the screens to an overhead view from one of their drones, and soon it could be seen that the places he was burning down were carving a circle of destruction, and that Todoroki was chasing behind each time, putting out the fires but not before they had burned the initial building to the ground. "He's drawing something," Cementos spoke in realization. Hizashi nodded. "He is, but look at what is at the center of the circle," he said. Shota and the other teachers looked and saw what Hizashi was pointing out. A stage, one where a crowd of people were gathered, doing a concert, unknowing of the danger that was entrapping around them. As the circle was finished, they noticed Kirishima heading towards the center stage. "Looks like the listener plans to be putting on a showstopper," Hizashi chirped. Silence. Shota groaned. Really? Hisashi shot some finger guns at him. Namuri chuckled, amused at the antics of her friends. Nezu returned the cameras on the outer edge of the circle to normal, tracking down any of the students they could locate. It didn't take too long for Kirishima to reach the stage, and he interrupted the concert with a smoke blast, and then, as smoke cleared, he was standing over the body of the singer, who was now shown to have a huge dent in their head. Youch, that's gotta hurt, Namuri commented. This really was one of the most exciting civil wars they had in a while. Kirishima tapped the microphone, as the cheers were replaced with screams of horror. Please, make some silence, he said, voice cheerful, but the screaming continued. If you want to live, you should be quiet, Kirishima growled, becoming threatening. Silence fell over, and the red-haired boy smiled again. Thank you. Now, I have a question for you. Have you ever heard the song, I don't want to set the world on fire? Kirishima sang the word slowly and creepily, pausing at the end. He has a pretty good singing voice, Hisashi said. And ooh, that's a good song, though it's an English song. I'm surprised he knows it. After a short pause, Kirishima continued, a grin on his face. Can't relate, he said, giving an evil laughter, hands spreading out wide, and red and orange lighting turned on, making Kirishima look like he was on fire for a few seconds. Let it burn. With that, all the lights in the concert went out, and on the screen the teachers witnessed green flames soar up into the sky, as inside the burnt circle more flames were ignited, making a green smile made out of flames. Namuri shivered. I hope I never see a green smile again after this exam is over, she said. How something so friendly seemed so creepy was a mystery to her. Nezu cackled. Over the speakers, as Kirishima walked away from the stage, they could hear humming being picked up from the speakers. What was with the villains and humming creepy tunes? All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 91 of Little Acts of Kindness. Chapter 92 will be up next. I hope you all are still enjoying. Drop those comments below to let me know what you thought of this chapter. And as always, thank you all so much for listening.